Hello everybody, welcome back to Aetheral Space. We are back, we are completely back.
Holy shit. It's been 10,000 years, but here we are. Aetheral Space 13.61, Accursed.
Part 4.
Tell me, Tanhoney, what is it like to write the most successful web serial?
I wouldn't know.
Damn. Speaking of web serials, you know what I've been wanting to read lately?
I wrote the new chapter like you said. Give me my money.
Oh my god. This guy, he's back on his kaiji kick.
It has to be 11 pages. Read the contracts.
God, I miss kaiji. Now I have to fucking rewatch it, asshole.
Push him.
It's so good.
I'll never push.
It's only human to push.
I want to apologize.
Dude, the worst one is when they're on, like, the balancing beams to get over, and, like, doesn't no one else make it?
No one makes it.
It's just
the guy's
kaiji.
like hallucinating the wind, like, what are you talking about? It's so windy.
And then he's like, it's a fake entrance, and then it's like...
That was the most bullshit.
Here's the funny part. What was the point of the glass staircase? It's like, it's a trick that you don't make it, but actually, secretly, there is an option. They didn't have to do that.
Because then the people can be on the part of the side of the glass like he doesn't know.
Right, I suppose, but like if I was in a mafia and I was doing this and I didn't want people to get the money, I would not put the glass staircase.
There has to be a chance of getting the money, or else there's no pleasure when they fail to do it. If there was no chance of victory, there's no pleasure in defeat.
God, I love kaiji. Anyway,
I was in that hotel, so...
We're almost 2 minutes in, they will kill us. We haven't read Aether in 2 weeks. 944 years ago. The palace was silent that night. Ruri's ship landed in silence, and she marched through the hallways in silence. Her face was stone, and the red robe she wore flowed after her like a puddle of blood. The few servants she encountered in the chiseled stone hallways mostly just nodded and bowed to her, if they even dared to do that. Her face wasn't just stone. It was the sort of stone that would crush the foolish. Dr. Chalk found her before she reached the Supreme's chambers. The nubs of a board of wings twitched from his shoulder blades as he matched her stride, his eyes covered by a dark visor. Under that thing, she wondered if he dared meet her gaze. As fellow members of the Zaylan Morhan, there was a familial respect between them. But still, she had a reputation among their number. I thought the Zaylan Morhan were like the UAP guys.
No, they were the precursors to special officers. They were like Azez's guys.
So who were like the crazy UAP berserkers?
Old Demons of the Dawn?
Old Demons of the Dawn. I always mix these two up. How is he? She asked, her voice dry. True to his own reputation, Chalk did not mince his words. What should his voice be like?
Well, imagine he's kind of like a bat, so I don't know if that'll help you at all.
He will die tonight, honored one.
Yeah, you got him.
Ruri paused right before the grand doors that lead to the Supreme's personal chambers. A great pressure seemed to be building in her skull. Why was she so surprised? This day had been inevitable, hadn't it? Since the moment her aether had first rushed through her, and she'd felt the hands of time ticking backwards, she'd known this day would come. Is he lucid? She continued her questioning, forcing the words out. Unclear, Chalk replied, but I doubt it. She looked at him, fury trapped behind eyes of pink glass. If he is alive, she snapped, then he is lucid. He wouldn't be supreme if he was the sort of man who could be doubted. Of course, noble one. Enough words, enough waiting. This was an occasion that had to be observed. With trembling hands, made still through discipline, she opened the great doors before her. Wood scraped against history as the light of the chamber beyond poured outwards. Ruri's heart dropped out of her chest. What voice should this be?
So he's an old man, Azez.
Kill them! The Supreme hissed, staring up at the ceiling from his bed. Kill them all! The bastards, traitors, and villains! Kill them in the streets! Kill them in their houses! Kill them! Kill them! Don't let a single one survive! Ruri stepped inside, doing her best not to listen to the Supreme's venomous monologue, doing her best not to look at him. They weren't alone in this room. As Chalk returned to his Supreme's side, Ruri saw that others had come to honor the final hours of their savior. The hulking Grandba the Maker sat cross-legged on the floor. He was the third Supreme, right?
Yeah.
Not second? Interesting. Quite an accomplishment for a man with 4 legs. 4 eyes, 4 arms, and 4 legs. His creator had surely had a passion for the quadruple. He gave her a nod as she passed. The blind man leaned against the far wall, clad in rags, a harpoon clutched in each free hand. He too stared up towards the ceiling, although he did so with empty sockets. Was he seeing the same thing as the Supreme? Hard to tell. Edgar's brother had never been the most forthcoming with his soul. Ooh, Lord! There were others, too, many other members of the Zaylan Morhan, and warriors besides, all here to pay their respects to the founder of the Supremacy. Are they doing that Baki thing? They were all kneeling in respect. A crowd lingering in silence on the edges of the room. The atmosphere of a funeral had already fallen here. Ruri hesitated as she noticed the absence in the room. With a glance towards Grandma, she asked, "Where is the heir?" The Maker's voice was a distinguished rumble, the Skurin scratching his blue chin with a blue finger as he spoke. "Biala's with the defenders of Abzu Tiamat. She would not make it in time." Ruri's frown deepened into a scowl. "All the same, she should be here. Her father will soon be—" The words would not come to her, but Grandpa nodded all the same. "It is as it is." For a moment she stood there, lost, but quickly regained herself. If Piala truly did not care for the end of her father, then that was but a reflection of her lacking character. Ruri had never approved of the brat anyway. Another step brought her before the man who had conquered the gods themselves, and the man who had slaughtered them, the bearer of the Lantern of Truth, the Absolute, the Supreme, Azez. At first she could only bear to look at the right side of his face. Time had done its work there, lines and wrinkles painted where they didn't belong, grey hair hung in wisps, and a milky, tired pupil wavered in and out of lucidity, rattling breath oozing from half-parted lips. And the left side. A mass of greedy tumors had devoured the left side of Azez's face. Eye and mouth and nose alike had been lost to the cancer's flood, until it looked like Azez was wearing a red, lumpy mask. Or perhaps his final crown. It hadn't been this bad last time Ruri had seen him, but it had still broken her heart to look at it. This was the reward Azez the Absolute had been given. Not a glorious death in combat or sacrifice, but the last contempt of the dead Gene Tyrants. A trap Azez had fallen into while they were charting the depths of their capital. For decades, Chalk had managed to hold the affliction back, prevent it from impacting his prowess or his mind. But the time had come. For everyone except Ruri, the time always came. "Kill them!" Azez whispered, switching madly against his pillows. "Kill them all! On the borders, in the dark! I can't stand it! Kill them! Someone kill them now, please! I beg of you!" The people focused just for a moment. "Ruri, is that you?" Ruri nodded eagerly, more eagerly than she'd intended, stepping forward, clasping his cold hand between hers. "It is," she breathed. "It is, it's me, my Supreme. Who is it? Who do you want us to kill?" "Kill?" Azez groaned. "Oh. Oh." Sensing his distress, Ruri pushed through. "The enemy's on the border, yes? The UAP? Oh, the False Alliance? They'll die, yes, I'll swear it to you, but you can't go yet. The Supremacy still needs you, you're our beacon. We won't know what to do without you. I won't know what to do without you." With heartbreaking weakness, Azez reached up and grabbed Ruri's arm, feebly gripping it. Once this man had single-handedly slain her Gene Tyrant creator and saved her from the life of a reflection. Now he could barely even hold on when she let him. But still, the shadow of purpose lurked in his trembling eye. "Ruri," he gasped. "Ruri, yes." She nodded. "Yes, it's me. What do you need?" His breath heaved with the exertion of focus as he tried to lift his head from his pillows. "Ruri, you must tell them. You have to." She waited for him to finish, but it was too much. With a gasp of pain, he collapsed back onto the bed, bloody sweat pouring down his face. His lips kept moving soundlessly. "What is it, my Supreme?" Ruri begged, bringing her ear closer, desperate for the last wisdom. "What is it you need from me?" He closed his eye. For a moment, a horrible nightmare of a moment, Ruri thought that was it. But no, he spoke. A whisper of a whisper reached Ruri's ear. "Ruri, this Supremacy, will you make it last for me?" "I will," Ruri promised, cutting through it all. "Until the end of time." There were no more words after that. The days afterwards felt like seconds. The grand funeral for the first Supreme, the emergence of his successor onto the scene, Fiala's night of 100 duels against 100 challengers, all of it like a book that Rory wasn't quite paying enough attention to. She just watched, pink eyes dull, as the hands of time skewered someone else she loved. She watched the coffin sink deep into the depths of Azum-Ha, watched the mockery in the Supreme Tomb, watched the people weep and gnash their teeth, and then, when she went home, she looked in the mirror and, as she did every day, saw the face of the monsters who had stolen her friend away. She tore that face off 5 times that night. Will you make it last for me? Will you make it last for me? Will you make it last for me? I will, Azez, Rory promised again, as she would for 1,000 years, her fingernails caked in blood. I will. Aetheral Space, Arc 13, Part 4. Fear. Make this stick for me, kid. Skipper's wish tugged Dragon's consciousness back into clarity, and his vision focused. Inwardly, he cursed himself that had been sloppy. Exhaustion could wait its turn after victory. He adjusted his position as he slouched on his throne. So, Mr. Guest, he said, not missing a beat. Do we have a deal? The hologram floated in the center of the throne room, looking up the steps at Dragon. With his bowler hat, pinstripe suit, and pencil-thin mustache, Mr. Guest looked more like a salesman than a fighter. But from his research, Dragon knew better than to underestimate the ossuary of the lesser chain. Hey, what's an ossuary?
It's like a gatekeeper.
Oh, interesting title. Is he like the leader?
No.
Okay. So this guy's from UAP then?
Yeah, he comes from there.
Even without his record, someone who'd advanced this far in the Dawn contest wasn't to be taken lightly. Still, the great thing about mercenaries was that they had a common motivation. Money. What should his voice be?
Maybe something like this.
Wow, said Mr. Guest, smiling from the hologram with his bowler hat and pencil-thin mustache. Just in case you didn't hear it the first time, he does have a bowler hat and a pencil-thin mustache.
You can tell which change was made.
If I were to be presented with such a sum, how could I refuse? Dragon leaned back in his throne, looking at the spectre floating in the middle of the chamber. His gaze was pale and resolute. All deception had already been searched for and found absent. Half the payment now, Dragon clarified. The other half after you issue the surrender. Please don't think of cheating me. Guest smiled thinly. Oh, I wouldn't dream of it. I still have simply wicked memories of Manrin's assassins. You'll have your victory. The Crimson Carnival, huh? Dragon suppressed a roll of his eyes. Ever since Manrin had vanished from... vanished.
The doctors didn't banish him.
They go, "Be gone, Manrin! We don't want you here!"
He fades.
Tears off the Hippocratic Oath from their lab pocket.
I was crossing my fingers when I saw that.
Ever since Manrin had vanished from the hospital, that band of maniacs had started tearing themselves apart for the succession of leadership. Soon the organization would splinter entirely and become completely useless. In truth, Dragon had already cut them loose, but there was no reason people needed to know that. The budget that had previously gone to them would now serve to pay off this very reasonable opponent. He nodded. A pleasure doing business with you then, Mr. Guest. My associate North will arrange the transfer for you. Guest plucked his hat from his head and bowed respectfully, brushing dust from his pinstripe suit and pencil-thin mustache as he rose back up. I'll be right back to the lesser chain. I'll be right back to the lesser chain as soon as I have my payment. Don't worry, you won't have to worry about a sore loser after your coronation. Dragon raised an eyebrow. You seem to have some faith in me. What about Palatine? Guest returned his hat to his head with a chuckle. I'm something of a betting man, Mr. Hadrian. A profitable outcome like this is one of my preferred departures from this Dawn contest. I've watched you well, and I've watched that beast. And if you ask me... He grinned. The only surefire bet is a bet on a cheater. The hologram flickered out of existence. North, snorting, emerged from his invisibility beside the throne, arms crossed. Man, you really think he'll stick to the deal? North grinned. I mean, he's a greedy son of a bitch, right? Like knows like. It's fine. Dragon closed his eyes, settling back in his throne. I didn't sense any deception from him. And besides, he cracked one eye open, if he tries anything, we'll just kill him. Right? You make it sound easy. It is easy. Has Xander been back in touch? North nodded. The Squirt says he and his guys have found the place you were looking for. Wasn't easy. Absurd weapons are real good at hiding their little, hidey holes. They're ready to attack whenever you say, boss. Opening both eyes again, Dragon rose from the throne, cracking his neck. Watching what had happened at the arena had been an eye-opener. As things stood, the Aether Awakening Palatine was a danger that Dragon could no longer ignore. Taking that thing on without proper preparation held an unacceptable risk of defeat. Hopefully, the place they'd been holding the beast would hold some clues to defeating it. Now, Dragon stepped forward, smiling calmly. We attack now. Crack! Wu Ming looked up from his magazine, head turning 180 degrees to face the cradle high above. A wooling grin spread across teeth made of thread. Looked like it was time. Happy birthday! He called out to the pulsating cocoon. How you feeling? You missed a hell of a thing at the arena. Real negative number rating sort of thing, let me tell ya. Can you hear me? His answer was an explosion. Steaming water and shining blood burst out from the cradle as it completed its purpose, scraps of thread and silk raining down with it. A burning fog washed over the abandoned building, smoldering against stone and wood. Wu Ming whistled. That bad, huh? Thump. Excuse me. Ruth Blaine dropped to the ground like a brick, landing on one knee, long red hair cascading around her. She opened a mouth full of fangs, and burning steam poured forth. Densely muscled limbs twitched, joints cracking audibly. She widened her eyes, and the now vertical pupils there turned thin as blades. Sparks flew from her prosthetic leg. It had only just barely managed to survive the transformation. They'd need to wrangle up a replacement for it. Slowly, Ruth looked down in her hand, the fingernails of which now tapered off into deadly points. I thought I'd be taller, she muttered. Wu Ming waved a hand. If we messed with your proportions too much, you'd be stumbling all over the place like a drunk. Ah! So, how do you feel? Feel strong? She clenched her fist, feeling the power in it. Yeah, I think so. Well, Wu Ming smiled, kicking his couch over to her. Don't just think so, try it out! Pretend that couch is the shepherdess or something. Fist still ready, Ruth looked down at the couch. Bang! And with a flash of red aether, pulverized it in a single blow. Wu Ming clapped his hands. Very nice, very nice! No furniture will stand against you. Now that you're up and about, though, how about we— Bang! The fist came down on the wreckage of the couch again, this time splintering the floor as it smashed right through. Wu Ming raised an eyebrow, his pupils twinkling. Bang! The wall shuddered. Bang! The floor shattered. Bang! The roof caved in. Bang! 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 Oh yes, Wu Ming thought, grinning even as the rubble rained over them. Yes, I think we can work with this. Atoy Musashi woke to pain. It was a familiar feeling by this point. As he opened his eyes, he knew straight away what had happened. He was covered in bandages, a breathing mask was planted against his mouth, the sterile walls and beeping machines bespoke a hospital. As he looked around the room, he knew straight away what had happened. Morgan sat in a chair next to the bed, quietly sleeping, his face pulled down by exhaustion and stress. He had his injuries?
Sorry.
He, too, had his injuries, and probably some commas. As he opened his mouth, he knew straight away what had happened. The pain he was feeling, the acid eating through his heart, the tears crawling behind his eyes, they all said one thing. It was obvious. But still, he asked, what happened? Morgan's eyes slowly opened, slowly focused in on Musashi, slowly looked down, and all of it again served only as confirmation. Doom nestled in Musashi's brain. You lost, Morgan murmured. For a good long moment, Musashi just stared forward at his second-in-command. The words had to be dissected in his brain. There had to be meaning there. Something other than despair hidden between the syllables, grasping ribbons, splattering blood, a flash of purple coming to save his battered carcass. Only when he was certain that his hunt had no quarry did Musashi speak again. I see. And Atoy Musashi began to cry. That's, like, so unfair. He literally was, like, on the heels of his hardest fight yet. And then Palatine was just like,
hey.
Oh.
Come out, Luther.
Musashi in there, and it's like every fucking antagonist in the series.
Come out, Musashi. Jumpy.
No. Open the window, Musashi. The sad music playing. His eyes wide. No. Why is he the designated sufferer? Why can't Dragon have a little bit of this suffering?
Because it's Musazi's turn.
No, it's not.
It's his turn
He's had
forever.
enough. No! No more! He's human too!
Because he's the struggler.
He's mine! Oh my god. He's literally guts. I can't believe it. Alright, we have some Aether questions, I'm sure. God, it's been a while though. I have to fucking find the thread again. Where did we last leave off? It's been 2 weeks. Okay. Here we go. Found it. Lan asks, if Aether is a light of the mind, how is it possible for someone to permanently imbue an object with aetheral properties without also imbuing it with some form of consciousness?
Well, it's a light of the mind. It's a light produced by the mind. It doesn't necessarily, by its nature, have consciousness. You do stuff with your mind. Like, if I'm picking up a glass of water with my mind, well, with my body, yeah, you know what I mean.
You've also established though that Aether has traces of consciousness.
Well,
so
yeah.
wouldn't every armament have some?
There's some trace of like the original user in there usually. Like,
You know what would be a cool technique? Is psychometry, and you can like tap places Aether users have been or Aether armaments, and you can see some of their memories.
no comment.
What?
No comment.
Is there a character you've already written with that?
Don't worry about it.
Yo! Let's go! I'm so smart. Oh man, I'm the king of everybody. Ruru asked a question I think was already answered. It's that there's no term for spouses of the Supreme, right?
And
there's no
they don't
notable
hold
ones.
a particular like established position. It's,
Yeah. Yeah, I thought so. JTKC asks, we know that someone is a different person if they lose their memories and will affect their Aether. Will losing your memories cause you to lose your Aether and need that new person to find their core again? For example, did Musazi and Negan have different cores, and did Musazi need to rediscover his core?
yes.
Roger. I thought so. Weiser asks, can Aether cloaking hide the sparks of Aether usage, or only prevent you from being noticed by Aether?
They hide the sparks as well. If you're Aether cloaking, there's nothing visible to show you're using Aether apart from whatever wacky stuff your abilities do.
Alright, and last one.
And your
Weiser
like
also
obvious
asks,
like enhanced strength and stuff that would give it away.
Nice.
But
And also, last one.
But visual inspection or Aether pings will not impact you.
Okay, I got you. And then last one from Weiser. How did Wu Ming disguise his rainbow Aether as only green while masquerading as Roman Hitch?
He has an Aether ability for it. It lets him change the colour of his Aether.
Can other people do that? Is that a thing you can do?
People could do it, but it's like an unreasonable... For other people who aren't Wu Ming, it would be an unreasonable amount of effort to develop an ability to do that for very limited benefit.
Interesting.
Whereas he's like, it'd be cool if my Aether was green.
I
I made a phone out of string that lets me give it a new colour.
It's called the Doom Phone. And pick
Excuse
up,
me,
die in 7
green
days.
please, room service.
Alright, well, we'll leave it off there, and we'll answer some more with the chapter tomorrow. But for now, you all take care and have a great day.
Bye. Bye.